All right, welcome everybody. So, for those that are checking in live and tuning in on the replay, we're going to be talking all things money, the future of money, precious metals, how to protect your wealth, how to protect your assets. I'm really excited to dive in. This is going to be an immersive, educational, empowering live here. I'm actually going to bring on my good friend Bianca, aka the Silver Surfer, Miss Numismatics. And we're going to dive in past a little bit of history, what you can do today to protect yourself, and also how to protect yourself going forward in a world that is changing very, very quickly. So I'm really grateful that you guys are here. I'm going to wait for her until she pops on. It's a topic that's very important because, as you guys know, we're going through a lot of financial shifts right now. We're going a lot of changes in our economy. You guys are seeing it happen with inflation. You guys are seeing it happen in the global markets. And the questions you may be having is, what do I do? Where do I start? What can I learn? How to protect myself, how to get things going in the right direction, and how to prepare myself for the future. So I'm really, really excited. Let me. Let's see. There we go. Are we good?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Mic check.
Hey.
All right, hold on one sec. Let me take off this mic. There we go. Now I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
How we doing? Everybody, this is Bianca. So Bianca and I connected years ago through a mutual friend, actually, from college. And long story short, she came across my page. She saw what we were sharing. And then she just started opening my mind. As you guys know, I share a lot about all sorts of things. And this was the first time in a while I've had someone come into my reality and show me things I'd never seen. And those things came in the form of precious metals, came in the form of a different type of money, quote unquote, God's money. So it's always amazing, refreshing, and nice to have someone educate you and teach you on things that you may have not known before. And that's what we want to talk about here tonight. So welcome. She goes by Miss Numismatics on Instagram. She's got millennialmetals.com. She's growing her brand. She's growing her influence. She's helped me a ton. She's helped people in our Wakewater community a ton. And we were just discussing, given the time frame right now with what people are going through and the challenges they may be facing, or the open-mindedness they may be having, and people starting to question things in reality, especially when it comes to our financial system. For those that don't know, we're in a little downfall right now, and that's a nice, kind word to say. And she's going to break down a lot of key parts. I've got a list here of some things we're going to cover. And if you guys have questions throughout this flow, you guys can type it in the little question box. If you type it in the chat, we may miss it because we're going to go back and forth a little bit. And we will save, I'd say, about like 10, 15 minutes, depending how many questions we get at the end, to help you guys. So by the time you leave this live, you feel empowered, you feel educated, you feel inspired, you feel motivated, you have a new perspective, a new shift to how money works and what you can do to protect your wealth for what's to come. And this is not something to promote fear or anxiety. It's to promote empowerment and awareness, because when you have this actual insight of what's coming by looking at these cycles we've been through, it's easier to sleep at night. It's easier to put your head on the pillow knowing that your assets are protected, your wealth can be protected. You're able to protect yourself from things outside that we may not be able to control, like the economy, the inflation, and so forth. So with all that said, thank you guys for showing out. Thank you, Bianca, for tapping in. Let's just go ahead and start. For people that are brand new, obviously, to my page, or people that are new to you, I'm actually going to pin her handle here right in the comment for you guys. And you guys can give her a follow on the page. Give us a little background, like in a minute or two, of pretty much how you got involved in all this, and then you can segue right into a little bit about our past, like what God's money is and how we got here, and then we'll dive into some topics about the current state, and then also where we're headed and some other things too. So let's go ahead and make it happen. Thanks for having me, or thanks for you coming on. Usually I'm the one having people having me on. We're having you on, so let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
First and foremost, right, thank you so much for the introduction, for sharing your platform, because I joked in the beginning, I was like, people probably, are very new to my face, and I'm pretty private. I haven't really, gone public with my message and all that I'm doing. As of yet, that's what I'm like ramping up to do in this moment. So yeah, hi to everyone who's never seen me before or heard of me before. Yeah, Chris is one of my dear friends, great mentor of mine. And yeah, I mean, just to touch base on like how I got into it, how you and I connected. I mean, really, I've been around the metals all of my life, but so my mom was a jeweler, right? All of my life, traveling, trade shows, things like that. So I tinkered with it for a long time, but if you can tell, right, I don't really wear jewelry, wasn't my forte, so I didn't really connect. And then, yeah, fast forward to like 2019, right before everyone kind of got sent to the rooms, as I call it, for a good 2 years, right? Yeah, over the summer, I fell down, very deep rabbit hole of money. It's the first like 101 that I always plug, right? It's Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money. If you guys haven't, if you haven't dived deep into metals and the finance world, that's a great 101 to start with. I'm like, sponsor me, Mike. At this point, I plug his.
And what was it again? It was so write this down, guys. Mike Maloney on YouTube, The Hidden Secrets of Money.
Yeah.
And it's a 10-part series. And yes, I'm so glad you said that, because she sent me that. And when I go at something, I go all in, and I go fast through it. And I watched episode by episode. I learned more in 10 episodes than, I kid you not, my whole life about money, how it works, what it is. So check it out on YouTube. Mike Maloney, Hidden Secrets of Money, 10-part series. Thanks, Bianca, later. Literally.
Or like gratuitous plug to one of my great financial gurus. And yeah, I mean, to get into it, just as you felt, I'm sure, Chris, right? And anyone who's watched it, there's kind of like stages of, they call them stages of grief, right? It's like stages of awakening, I think, with the money system, especially when you watch, fall down certain rabbit holes that first we're shocked, then we get angry, and then the question is, how do we get even? And that's what, if I could say that I guide anyone towards anything, that's really my process, is understanding how it started, how we got here, where they want to take it, right? They being the invisible hand, the powers that be. If you know me, I'm very adamant about naming them, knowing their faces. Very, very important to know exactly what and who is purveying, the evil that's been inflicted on us, that's being inflicted on us, the stealth tax of inflation, right? So, to go not crazy deep in the history of money, right, but into enough that people understand what's going on. The original banking's been around for a long time, before paper existed, right? People can hyperinflate with metals. They've done it, right? They instead dilute the metal. So inflation can happen with paper currency, or physical currency, right? Exactly. Cobb's holding up the two different, essentially the two different types of, what I consider, one is so-called money, right? People call the paper, the fiat currency, money, and it's like almost a misnomer. It's like a, misnaming of, that's the trick, that's the great lie, right? Is that we got tricked into worshiping, calling, and treating the paper, the fiat, the ghost of money, as if it was money. So banks of deposit, right? That's where people would deposit their gold and silver into a physical safe house, a bank, the original banks. And what really was born from the banking system, right? These banksters, as we call them, it's the sin of usury, right? That word is like what a lot of people are kind of disconnected from. They don't really know what's going on. They just know things cost more. The sizes are much smaller. So we're getting stretched in two different directions, pulled from two different directions. If you want to have like a visual to it, right? That pulling in two different directions is usury. Right, the asset gets more expensive, our life force gets diluted, and yeah, we just essentially get priced out of quality of life, right? So we're kind of seeing that, not kind of, we're very much seeing that happen right now, with all the currency printing. That's what inflation really is. It's the increase of money supply. Yeah. Right, and you and I talked about what's going on with the debt clock. So there's a lot of signals going on. That the banks are making really big moves, right? They've stopped, the Federal Reserve announced they're not printing any more currency. Yeah. So we're about to see a constriction in the physical currency. And in my eyes, right, they're hurting us towards something, right? First is voluntary, cashless, using exact change, all of this stuff. It's still voluntary in that moment. You know, the second they, whatever, turn on the CBDC, DUSD, whatever is coming, whatever the central banks are gearing up for, it won't be voluntary in my eyes. It's going to be mandatory. You know, there won't be necessarily a way to opt out, and, you know, enter metals. That's what metals really are for me. Not only are they, you know, traditionally what they have always been, the safe haven asset, right? The wealth protector, you know, a store of value, all of these things traditionally, but they are almost the opt-out button from this digital, you know, herding that we're seeing happen with banks. You know, if you've seen around wherever you guys are in the country, right, limits on how much cash you can pull out. You know, I'm in the bank all the time, so I've heard it through the grapevine. You know, like there's a lady who was next to me yesterday trying to pull out $60,000 in cash. Couldn't do it. You know, the banks don't have it. So we're seeing history literally repeat itself from the thousands of years, you know, when fractional reserve banking started, even with banks of deposit, when gold and silver were deposited, you know, the lie pervade. They overprinted IOUs. You know, there may be less fancy IOUs that we see today, the Federal Reserve note. But in essence, the IOU printing has always, it's since the dawn of time, since the beginning of civilization, when they caught on to money printing, you know, and the fact that people were trusting enough to not claim the metal, right? Withdraw their metal. It's kind of how it got away from us, the money printer. And now we're seeing trillions of dollars just printed at the, you know, the snap of a finger. So we've never seen this volume of currency printed.
Right.
Not before.
So let's recap that really quick. So what she's saying, guys, is we started with silver, right? This is like God's money. Currency and money are two different things. This is money, this is currency. Okay, you can make more currency. We can't just snap and make more silver with our hands. They can easily make this with more paper, and that's what they've done. So over time, what she's talking about with these patterns, there's a guy named 𝗦𝗟𝗘𝗥, that's his name, right? Mm-hmm. And he looks at these patterns, because here's the thing, guys, we repeat these cycles until we learn from them. And that goes on a global level, and that also goes on a personal level. Some of you repeat your cycles of bad habits of eating until you actually break them. They have new health. Right. Same thing with spending. Same thing with, you know, brushing your teeth. You break these cycles, and if you don't break them, they're going to keep happening. So what they've done is they found a way to manipulate the global currency, right? And this is what's called the global reserve system. This is what props up so much of the economies around the world. The thing is, though, some of the biggest countries aren't even taking the dollar anymore. So what Bianca was mentioning too, there's a term, if you guys are really listening and paying attention here, is called fractional reserve banking. Okay, fractional reserve banking. And that's why banking is a business. It's no longer a vault where you can actually store value, right? This is a store of value. This is a belief of exchange. It's a vault where you could put the store value. It's become, though, a business. It's become a method of moving and even trafficking and moving, illegal entities and offshore accounts. It's laundering. It's become so diluted and so corrupt that yet we still use the very same paper that crime is using. So fractional reserve banking is when you go deposit $100, they lend out 90. They don't actually. Your money is not your money in the bank. That's their bank's money. That's their money. You're borrowing it. It's an IOU. It's backed off belief. So imagine if they keep giving out this money to people. So what Bianca was saying, by the time you go get your cash or your 10,000 or 5,000 or whatever, they don't have it. And you can't get it. And they don't have it. And that's where you have these bank runs happening around the world. And then you have inflation, which, if you guys did not know this, they have printed, 80% of the money supply has been printed in the last 3 years.
It's just like, to put it into a real-time perspective, right? Oh. Essentially, it's how many dollars are on the face of the earth.
There you go.
How many dollars, right? And we used to be able to physically see them because they used to physically print it, Now, the Fed, of course, they hate the printer now because it slows them down. Yep. First of all, now with the cost of goods, supply chains being messed up, the paper physically itself costs too much, right? If they printed the dollar on paper, it's like $1.03 to print the dollar. So they're in the negative already, right? Yep. With the physical printing, that's it's, you know, explains to me how big of a sham it really is.
Yeah.
That the worthless, you know, the worthless entity that is the paper dollar is now too expensive. You know, the denomination isn't even worth the goods, the labor. You know what I mean? So that's just how untethered we are from reality.
Yeah. And aren't we in like $30 trillion of debt? And guys, we can't.
No,
Like it's like we're digging a hole. We're digging a hole and trying to get out of the hole by digging the hole deeper. It's just logically it's baffling. Yes, how many people stop and think about this?
Yes, the weapon of mass destruction that is compounding interest, and that's what I name usury for, because interest is usury, right? Interest is essentially creating value, money, currency, energy out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. And if we know the physics of energy, you can't produce it out of nothing, right? So essentially that's what the lie is, you know, and it's all belief. It's all a confidence game. The second, you know, I really do try not to scare people, but in my eyes, I know we've already hyperinflated. They're just hiding it. You know, and we see these little pressure releases, a blip, you know, on the radar here and there in the form of gas, in the form of eggs. Eggs were a huge point of topic of conversation recently, and you know, I fear that we're only just beginning to see. You know, this is like we're talking about Venezuela style hyperinflation, and you know, the real difference is it's not just America in the boat. It's exactly what you said, right? It's not a lot. It's every single country on the face of the planet. It navigates on the world reserve currency. It's all based on dollar.
The petro-dollar, right? And that's where the oil thing comes into play too. If you guys did not know, a little history lesson in 30 seconds, 1972, we were taking off something called a gold standard. And then Henry Kissinger, a guy that went to Saudi Arabia and bribed the Saudi royal family to use the dollar in exchange of our military protecting the oil fields in Saudi Arabia. That's why this is called the petrodollar. Because our whole globe uses gas and oil for energy, not Tesla, not this other stuff. So they use the oil, and to buy the oil, you have to use our money. So it's held hostage. We've been held hostage from this petrodollar.
Why did they do that, right? Of course, you know, it was essentially the bargain that America made when we tamed the world, right? After World War II, we said, you're not going to nuke each other. We're going to police the world. Our requirement for that is that when anyone purchases petrol, right, the gas is needed for every civilization to navigate, right, to be viable, essentially, as a country. They wanted it to be paid in the dollar, exactly. And the reason why really is because when things are based on commodity for commodity, everyone gets to play. Boom, Africa would be incredible in that system, in a gold standard system. Peru, Brazil, all these countries that are resource rich would now be the new king. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, it is the way of the world. It is the way of conquering. You know, it does come down to pointing the gun, essentially. You know, it has been the way of the world. Like, he who has the biggest gun will make the noise. You know, it's not even about gold anymore. But yeah, I mean, this, you know, the reason why we're doing this talking thing is to highlight how even a nation as strong as America will fall to economics, right? Math is not biased to color, religion, race. It doesn't care. About gun. Math doesn't care. Debt doesn't care, right? And that's, you know, it's why I highlight, you know, it's why I push, you know, spread the message so much about metals, right? Because the name of the game, it used to be cash, right? Cash is king. And the name of the game in that is like optionality, you know, and what assets today really give us optionality. Stocks, they're due for a huge correction. You know what I mean? We might see them go up, but they're due for a huge, stocks have been going up for 15 years. Do we think it's going to go up for another 15, or what goes up must come down? Real estate doubled, right? Real estate, you don't have a lot of optionality. You have to sell the house. That's banking on that someone's going to buy it, you know, so your cash is kind of tied up. And, you know, for what we're seeing, we want to be as fluid, as liquid as humanly possible. In an asset that doesn't die. So that's why, you know, the metals are very much the sleeper. No one really considers them, you know, it's like boomer rocks. They're kind of, you know, they're fudded out the
And I was going to say, and people, you know, it's hard for people to go take this, like, and go buy gas with it. It's like, well, I don't want that. Where's your money? Like, where's your credit card? Where's the plastic? Like, have you guys gone to a restaurant or a burger chain? You tried to buy a burger with the silver ounce. That's why it's hard for people to comprehend this, right? Because we're so used to this, and we're so used to debits and plastics in digital cards and numbers. That's why, guys, this is going. If anything in your mind's like, well, how would I use silver? Like, I can't buy groceries with gold or with metals. Like, what does this have to do with? It's not the fact of you using this to go buy your groceries. Right. It's not the fact of doing that. It's the fact of protecting you from when this does fall, because it is. And some of you guys were over the target already with the BRICS alliance, hyperinflation, the other things that are happening, which we'll get to if we get to it here. Is hyperinflation is when countries that have been held hostage by this piece of paper, this global fiat system, this petrodollar, they are not using the dollar anymore. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That's the BRICS alliance. Now you have Turkey, Iran, and all these Egypt and all these other countries that want to be involved in this. So imagine now if those countries, India, Russia, and China, those three countries together equate for, I think, close to 60 to 70% of the global trade. If they stop, if they stop using this, where does all this have to go?
Home.
Where's home, guys?
That's us.
Here.
It's us.
That's what that's the message we're getting across without promoting like, oh my gosh, what do I do? It's not you using this to go buy groceries right now. It's about you preparing for when these dollars come home. You have something called hyperinflation. So all the money you have saved and worked your butt off 24/7, corporate America, 9 to 5, taxed on 50% of it, 401k, Social Security, putting it in stocks, working your butt off, and barely keeping up, all that money that you have saved in your bank account every day, it's not $1 that's in there. It's literally down to like 10 cents in terms of purchasing power.
It's ones and zeros, Chris.
It's ones and zeros. It's crazy. Like, it's not even in there.
No.
So that's what we're looking to get this message across to you guys, is to jolt you, your programming, to jolt your awareness, to jolt your processing of what money is, the difference of what money is, and also where we're going, right? Also where we're going.
And knowing that the banks have gotten very smart.
Yes.
They, this darkness, as I call it, right? This intelligence, this very dark, evil intelligence that's been purveying this. They have watched, right? This entity has watched time and time again. They're like, oh, every time we do this, every time we print their life force away, they riot, right? Yep. They hang us in the streets. So, I don't think that our Venezuela style hyperinflation is going to come in that form anymore. I think they've wisened up. Even Venezuela hyperinflated in 2018. So even in this 4 years, they got really smart. And we're not going to see cash lining the gutters necessarily, because that is the wheelbarrows of cash for bread, guys. Like, remember your social studies, like 5th grade, 6th grade, maybe social studies history books. There used to be like photos, wheelbarrows of cash for bread. It's the American Great Depression.
Yep.
That's what happens when, you print too much currency. When, our government runs away with the printer. I really do believe that we're in the loot the treasury phase, right?
Yeah.
Mike Maloney's Stages of Empires, this is the last step. They're literally printing into oblivion, and it doesn't bode well for the populace. It doesn't bode well for us, the people. We usually have to pay for it. Pay for their mistakes, essentially. Yeah. And if you want a way out, right? If you see it happening all around you in different forms, my biggest method is to divest. Every paper dollar we can part with, it needs to come back with prisoners. It's time for, I think, a lot of America to kind of rein in their priorities. Because, once people catch on to what myself, what you, our communities are talking about, it's almost like a dead sprint, and they're like, oh, now all of a sudden I don't have enough dollars for all the things I really need, to relay. We just talked about our backup generators, how much was that? It's not cheap. The things that are required to divest from this very dependent grid that we found ourselves in. We're dependent on their food, food chain systems, everything in the world. We're really vulnerable. And now I've kind of peeped. I'm like, all this gear, all the things that we need to actually physically divest are very expensive. So it's almost like designed.
Yeah.
Like they don't want us to be able to do this,
Yeah. And the reason why too, a lot of people, someone said in the comments, why aren't people like protesting? Because guys, most people don't know any of this. Like imagine going your whole life not being taught a single, like you've probably learned here in 30 minutes more than maybe some of you learned in 3 years, 30 years. That's the craziest part. So how do you protest something and get mad at something that you don't know anything about? That's what our ignorance has done to us. It's kept us blindfolded to following just the paychecks and the payrolls and the 401, like just all of these things outside of us that has kept us in these loops. They've kept us in these cycles too. That's why no one's protesting. And you also have entertainment, Super Bowls, distractions, TikTok videos, happy hour, comic TV. Because there's a good group of you, most of you on this call, you guys get it. That's the thing. Like we're a small group. It's growing. It's going to take time to get there because there's 330 million people in the US. So just know that our parents, like 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, a lot of them, this is foreign language, like precious metals. And there's a difference between precious metals because it's a store of value. So that's why it's up to us to get this information out. That's why you don't have to be professional. Like, well, I'm not a financial expert. We research, we study, we watch videos. We don't get distracted as much as the regular person, right? And we want to help people with this. So that's why it's really not that loud yet. Look what happens when gas goes to $7. People lose their mind. Look what happens when eggs go. Imagine gas at $15 or eggs at $50. Now you're going to get people literally yelling in the streets, and it's slowly happening. It's like what you see is not really what's happening. It's enough to keep you calm and complacent while there's bigger stuff that happens in the background. So Bianca and I are pulling the veil back so you don't see the surface level. So you could see behind, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, right? Follow the yellow bricks, the bricks of gold, the Oz, OZ, ounces, all sorts of drops with the yellow brick road. Some mighty old man it's just a little guy behind a screen yelling on a megaphone. That's mainstream media. That's these bankers, these Jerome Powells and, Janet Yellen's and all these people that are just puppets on a string, keeping you complacent. And then in the background, which I want to ask you next, in the background, whether they're a part of it or not, some of the biggest banks, the biggest countries in the world are buying gold right now. Why? Why are some of these biggest banks and countries, why are they buying all the gold right now? More than ever. What's going on there?
So yeah, we're seeing every country, resource-rich country at least, right? Everyone who has gold can mine it. We're trying to find it, and that to me is it's a signal that we are about to go back to a commodity-based system, right? So money traditionally has always been based on a commodity, whether it was grain, wheat, right, oil, and then we came to gold. Gold and silver, right? Throughout the thousands of years they've been used as currency, as money. They've proved to be the perfect price. So that's why I use these words specifically, like these phrases specifically, because I hope to make it a little bit more, I guess, easy to understand, exactly why the metals became what they are, right? Not only they're industrial, commercial, they're also monetary. Why? Why are they money, right? Why are they not base metals like copper, aluminum, steel? And it's about scarcity. So they're just so perfect. There's just enough of it. It's just abundant enough that it can be used as money. We can all play nicely as countries together, right? Without having to take each other over, right? Because it's too scarce. And they are just scarce enough. So they're just abundant enough, just scarce enough to set the prices of everything. And specifically gold. Gold sets the price of every commodity in the world. So that's why everyone's clamoring for it. If China, a lot of countries do not let gold out of their country. They'll import it, but they will not export it. They do not let it leave. And of course, rightfully so, right? Because countries would get emptied, essentially, if we could buy other people's gold. Especially buying with what? With fiat printed fake nothing money.
Monopoly. money. Someone's a
Yes.
monopoly.
So
Yeah,
imagine you're
monopoly
taking
money.
someone's physical, real asset from them, and you're giving them an IOU. Exactly, you know. So, why are countries doing this? You know, I think it's a huge pivot to a repricing, whether their currency is going to be just like what Russia did,
Yeah.
right? They were the first to really make a move in pricing the ruble, right? In 500 grams of gold, and then only accepting payment for their oil, right? Resource to resource. That will be the way of the world,
Yeah.
in my opinion, right? It will be, again, right? Like the commodity, the resource rich countries playing with each other. That will be the new kingdom, essentially. So yeah, what does it bode for? You know, I don't really fear for America. We still, you know, we can go back to manufacturing our own thing. You know, we don't necessarily need to be so reliant on China. I know people fear China produces everything. They're a big contender. You know, militarily, no country, if all the countries combined, right, got together, they still couldn't touch America for 50 years. So, you know, I'm not going to say that we can't, or, you know, we have, you know, administration right now that's kind of infiltrating us. But that's why America hasn't been taken over as a country for 200 years, because we have the biggest militia. You know, so they had to cripple us from within, right? So burn us from within. Yeah. The money printing, and of course the culture, right, where it's all going has been about, you know. So this is a very active plan to kill the American spirit, the American identity, American tenacity, all of it. And, you know, why are we doing this? Because in my eyes, this is the most simple. You know, you want to riot, you want to protest. The best way to do that is to divest, to turn in your dollars, essentially, right? That's what people are doing when you're buying metal. You're not buying anything. You're just turning in your fiat.
Yeah.
And you're taking the asset, right? And that's what these banks never thought we were going to do, that we, the people, would come back to claim the asset. Yeah. They never thought we'd do it, you know?
And some of you guys were asking about crypto too, which if we have time, we can touch on towards the end. So what Bianca's explaining is divesting, taking your money, right, that you have in your bank, which doesn't become this anymore, it's digital. And that's why you guys are so aware of Bitcoin, because millions of people took their fiat dollars and turned it into fiat or Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. What Bianca's saying is also make sure you're aware, right? It's not like, you know, this silver market doesn't go to 70,000 and down to 20. It's very volatile. That's what volatility is, where it's up and down. It's very, right now, and I want to make sure to ask you the price of metals, because when you told me this the other day and what it should be, you guys are going to spit out your Kangen water if you're drinking it. Bitcoin is like an example of divesting fiat into another currency, right? So what Bianca's saying is, yeah, you can look at that too, and also look at divesting some of your fiat into actual money that's going to be used in the future for technology, for whatever, you know. Silver, you could even go into, is used in so many ways. And there's another thing too. There's something called Basel III, which is important because Basel III is a requirement banks have to comply with, guys, that makes sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, they have 1-to-1 asset ratio of gold to everything on their balance sheet, right?
I don't know if the ratio is 1-to-1. I think it's like 1-to-4.
1-to-4? Okay.
Yeah, so
that's another reason they're buying a lot of gold, because if these banks don't have gold in their vaults, then their little game is over. Right. So like I said, I want to transition a little bit to good news, because some of you are like, well, this sucks. Our world is bogus. I can't buy anything. Inflation's wrecking me. What do I do? Yeah. I can't use silver to go purchase stuff right now. So
I'd love to,
this is awful.
We will address that, though.
Yeah, we don't want you guys to stay pessimistic. This is for optimism, because now we want to talk about what good is going to happen, what you can do, how the world is changing. Countries are changing. The dollar is not what it was anymore. The world is waking up. You guys know this. We're speaking out. You guys are changing your habits. It's starting with us. So there's good things that are happening, and we've got to get back to a level playing field, though. That's what Bianca said. It's like a revaluation of currency, a revaluation of money, which will change, you know, the derivatives, the stock market, the real estate market, the commodities, the precious metal market, you know, tokenization, all of these different things. So there is good things coming, right? We say the best is yet to come. So yeah, let's shift gears and talk about some of the silver linings, which you like to say, the silver lining. And before you talk about that, last thing too, can you share with everybody what is the price of metals today? And then what you told me last Friday, because I got these numbers mixed up, and I was baffled. Remember, this is not financial advice. Probably should have said this at the beginning. It's not financial advice, not financial advisors. This is just education. What do you feel? What's your guess of what really silver and gold, let's just stick with those two, are really worth compared to what they're worth on paper? So let's start there before we get into the silver lining.
Full disclaimer to everyone, right? I'm not a financial advisor, not a fiduciary. These are the ravings of a mad woman, really, right? That's my little disclaimer.
Straight shooter.
That's right. But yeah, I mean, you know, what people usually typically know of the prices of silver and gold and the metals are, and that's right, ROG, you know, is what's considered spot price, right? So the spot price is essentially the price that's determined by the COMEX, the Commodities Exchange, right? So it's essentially the stocks, the derivatives version, paper silver, paper gold is what sets the price, you know, that the physical reflects. Even though we know now the physical price of metals is pretty untethered, you know, there's huge premiums that we've never really seen before in the history of, you know, investing in metals. But yeah, if you follow me, you know that I think and know that the spot price is a sham. You know, in history, they have been more tethered to each other. You know, and we go through these ebbs and flows, right? Just like a rubber band, it stretches and it contracts. You know, that ratio of, you know, physical to supposed, right, the paper price to the physical price, today it's so untethered. And you know, if we were going to really do a reining in, a reckoning, you know, count every physical paper dollar that's been printed and match it to every physical ounce on earth, yeah, we'd know that it's not $24 an ounce, you know, $23 an ounce.
How much?
That's what they say. 23 an ounce for
20.
silver.
So, and this is like an ounce, right? Like a silver coin. Guys, $23 an ounce.
That's what they say.
That's
right?
what they say.
Exactly.
That's what they say. And gold, and then what is gold right now?
Gold, it's hovered between $1,700 and $1,900 an ounce.
Okay, so that's what they say. Now, what is it really in your life?
So yeah, of course, you know, in my opinion, you know, what people much smarter than I have researched and done the math on is essentially why people are pushing the silver squeeze, you know, urging physical ownership of a metal, is because we're essentially trying to do essentially it's an audit, right? We want to audit the COMEX, the Fed, all of these paper games that we've been fed. We want to see the actual price of the ounce, right? Not going to be that, it's not going to be easy. As I said, they've moved everything to digital, so we can't, it's harder to physically count everything. But you know, what we know that we can do is take possession, right? So we're driving the emptying of the COMEX vaults. Because once they can't lie about it anymore, they must produce the ounce. Just like you said in the very beginning of this talk, they can't print it. You can't just magically make a silver ounce or a gold ounce appear out of nothing. It takes mining, it takes physical labor, right? It's a physical market. So in my eyes, they've lied about the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They lied about something physical. Okay, it's hard to do a reckoning on Apple because Apple stock it's a stock based on a company that's based on an idea, very abstract, right? Physical metals, an ounce is an ounce is an ounce.
An ounce is an ounce is an ounce.
Yeah.
You hear that? An ounce is an ounce is an ounce.
An ounce 6,000 years ago is an ounce of gold today, is an ounce of gold tomorrow, right? It will always be. So yeah, I mean, you know, the math is essentially what the COMEX has done. Because these are contracts, you know, people don't typically, and they're huge contracts, right? Usually governments, industrial companies will buy these pallets of gold, pallets of silver, right? The U.S. Mint probably buys directly from the COMEX, huge contracts, right? So people don't typically, they just roll over the contract, you know? Essentially in that way, they've purveyed, again, fractional reserve lending of the metals. They've promised, let's say, for each ounce that they have in the actual vault, they've promised it to 200 to 500 people. What happens if all those 200, 500 people get a weird feeling? They're like, I don't know if they have it. I think I want to take possession of my silver. I want to take possession of my gold. What happens if all of us start to drive that, right? We empty the vaults. You know, that is the goal of the silver squeeze, to reprice the metals. And that's why the U.S. debt clock situation was huge, because I've never seen it. I've been tracking that for 3 years, right? It's a clock that tracks all the debt, essentially of every, market in the US. And for people who don't know, the prices for silver, gold, oil, all went to asterisk zero. Right?
What was
So
it?
another
It went
huge
to what?
zero, quote unquote. So yeah, people of course are like, do I get silver for free? I'm like, would that I could. Imagine only, right? But to me, it means that there's something going on with the metals, I don't know, right? I don't like to play the prediction game, but it feels like there will be a price discovery, right? Realization. And whatever it gets priced in, whether it's, the US dollar or something digital, that's, the verdict's still out on that. But all I know is, if we look to history, there will be a mad dash for physical assets. And to think, right? I'd love to get it in people's heads is like, current events, like look what's going on with the water, the Ohio spill, like, if it doesn't feel like some V for Vendetta, very orchestrated events going on right now, I don't know if we're watching the same movie, but yeah, if you were looking for any signal that the game is afoot, I think everything that's going on around us is showing that. So yeah, I mean, first and foremost, where is your water? Where is your garden? We need to know how to get to our food, right? That's, I think, step number one, even before metals. We can't eat the metals. In my eyes, I don't want to let them go if I can help it for anything but land. So with that, there's like levels to this, as I like to say. But yeah, I mean, I to highlight on the things that I'm seeing, I've seen so much of the pivoting of people literally divesting from not only the fiat currency, but from this system of living. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people literally go for it. They leave their entire life in the city, and they just, I've seen people buy acreage in the middle of nowhere and like really just start to, it's a hard life, in the beginning to set up all the infrastructure, but, I don't know what is more sovereign than actually, owning your means of production, your time, all of it. So yeah, I mean, I think in this plastic world, the order is shifting back to the natural world, living assets, living like life affirmative action. So that's where I get like a little bit spiritual, a little bit hippie. That's not super common in, this technical industry. Yeah, metals to me are so much more than money or investment. They were the true intended representation, the true talisman, the perfect talismans of our life force, uncorruptible. They will try. There'll be people who tell you that you can turn lead into gold and all this stuff. But there's nothing quite as perfect as what exists already, what's already here. And if we just use it correctly, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Do you have to do all these like mental games if the true taking back of power is such a simple move,
Yeah.
So yeah, I
You said $24 an ounce.
Yes.
What could this be?
So yeah, if they did actual like repricing, $500,
Hold on, guys, listen, because I literally, my heart hurts for people that jump off this live and don't ever watch the replay.
Yeah.
Because we're about to go into what you can do to protect yourself and all the things as we wrap this up and get to some questions.
Yeah.
$24 an ounce.
Could be.
Price,
Yeah,
right?
supposed to actually be if they did a range.
And then you said the first level, it could be
4,000 to 5,000 is what it's supposed to. If we did a repricing,
what price?
4,000 or 5,000 an ounce is what the actual math says.
Guys, this $4,000 to $5,000 per coin.
And that one's worth more. The graded one.
This one's worth more. Hold on. I want to pause. I'm going to give some awkward silence to this audience.
Blink, blink.
$24 an ounce could be. Remember, we're not experts. We're not here to declare this as truth and fact yet. From her research, my research, her understanding, my understanding, and a bunch of other opinions and a bunch of other perspectives and data and research and cycles and patterns and zoom out and zoom in lenses, $4,000 to $5,000 an ounce. And gold should be what?
Well, if we actually play look to the historical ratio of gold to silver, if silver is $4,000 or $5,000 an ounce, it should be times 10. So that means gold is what? 40 to 50.
$1,000 an ounce. Why, guys? Why do
And you can
you guys think? Why do you guys think the biggest banks and countries in the world are buying all the gold and making you work harder for paper?
The thing that they can print away. So
because they know the shift is happening. Watch, look, here's the baton right here, Bianca, take it. Reach out, reach, slow reach, slow reach. Slow, hold on, don't go to, I don't got it yet. See how slow it's going?
Yeah.
And we're all busy over here fighting for this, and they are literally passing the metals, the new currency, all these new digital systems right in front of you. And what Bianca and I are doing is shaking you awake so you can see this, because the last thing we want for you is for time to go by, you look back and go, oh shit, I wish I got a couple of ounces, or oh shit, I probably should have watched that replay, or oh shit, this and that, right? That's why I wanted her to touch on this, because when she told me that, because think of it, if you guys wanted to go buy a $30,000 car, and let's say that was the value, you're gonna need 5 of these.
Look at that.
You need 5 of these.
Well,
Here you
let's
go.
play the low ratio, right? Let's say
Here's your new car. Here's your new car. Okay, yeah, go low ratio. Just say 500.
$1,000 an ounce.
Sure.
It'd be like 30 coins, right? So we need to start asking those questions, like, what is the true price? What is the metal price, the iron price, right? To quote Game of Thrones. But it really is the iron price, because nations had to conquer other nations. That's the way that this metal even came into our hands, is through blood, you know. So
yeah,
it's a prettier world today. It's a much more pleasant, much more peaceful one, you know, the system that we get to navigate in. But yeah, it is. To me, it is the way. So
yeah, now let's zoom back in, because that was zoom out. That was about almost, we'll go a little bit over. We zoomed out. You guys saw some history. You guys learned a little about the banks, fractional reserve banking, inflation, money, currency, right? How the dollar went off the gold standard, the petro-dollar, hyperinflation, Basel III, future of commodities, revaluation of currencies, how money's going to come back and flood our country in a different way than what we've been programmed to think, and how there's a transition of wealth, a transition of power happening, and we're busy over here clawing and scratching at 9 to 5s and TikTok videos and happy hours and Super Bowl, and that's the thing, is it's hard because we're awakening, so we're diving in all these wormholes, yet our bank accounts and our money ain't changing. Dive into some financial wormholes, guys, because that's actually going to give you some type of return on investment. I know the conspiracy stuff is cool, it's crazy, it's interesting. I've been there, done it, came out better from it, cool. I would recommend putting that aside for a moment, really learning this ASAP so you can protect yourself, because now let's zoom in. What can people do? Right, we're doing with our community, Wakewater Co. We're educating on silver. She's doing it with her following. She's doing it with her people. Gosh, I don't even know how many people we've interconnected and helped get this set up. And here's the thing, guys, it's not that you got all of a sudden, you know, dump all of your life savings and have no money just to pay bills and survive, because we have bills, we have rent, we have utilities, and your landlord's probably not taking a bunch of these yet. So ask yourself, budget-wise, and if you haven't made a budget, do so ASAP. What amount of money can I afford to live maybe below means, right? Like I still drive a car from college. I wear the same clothes pretty much every day. I have old slippers I haven't bought. I have jeans that are from 2019, like 18, 17. Once or twice a day. I literally live as if I'm frugal. Right. I live under below means, because I know the future is what I'm more focused on, instead of right now trying to impress people, show out, and this and that. So create a budget. Ask yourself, what are you okay with investing, right? Because it's not financial advice. Remember, investing is what can you put somewhere that you're okay to lose. Right. The only thing is, this is less volatile than crypto. So it's not like you're losing it. It's holding the store of value. And then what can you do next? So yeah, to educate people on what they can do next, what you're doing, what you're helping people with. Let's zoom back in so the people watching this now, watching the replay, can take some action or do something, instead of just go, well, that was a cool talk, and go right back to their patterns. Right. We don't want you guys, we want you guys to learn, educate, take action, have some direction, get in contact with Bianca. Like, she can consult you, hook you up. You can ask her the questions. So I'll let you share some things on that, and then we'll get into some Q&A, and then we'll start wrapping it up.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, what really came up for me, even as I was talking with my own community, is it's 3 words, right? Threefold almost. And the first thing that I highly suggest, right, the currency that's much more even important than metals is community. You know, there isn't, I stress it time and time again, there isn't anyone, okay, maybe there's a few people out there, but not really layman people who have enough capital to really prepare in the way that we all truly need to prepare.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe I have the metals down, but where's my food? Where's my water? You know, so there's always kind of like a base that isn't covered for each of us. That's every single one. And, you know, it's another thing that the banker families hate, right? The banksters hate is us being in cahoots with each other. They do not like that. And look at the culture. They've separated us. We don't even necessarily, not as neighborly as, you know, like neighborly anymore. That culture is kind of, you know, definitely with the phone, the era of the phone, we don't really make eye contact or connect, you know, in the way that we used to. And yeah, connecting with community, people who are in your physical, you know, this is great. You know, when I can communicate with people, collaborate with people who are across the country, across the world, it's incredible. But if the lights went out tomorrow, what good are we, you know, really, if we're thousands of miles away? So it is important to find people around you of like mind who are, you know, interested in the same things, life affirmative action, preparing for the holy shift, as I call it. And the second, right, so community, building our community, and then preparation. There comes a preparation, and that's where metals, of course, play a factor. And you know, the last step is stacking. Really, it's almost a third rank to me of the trio, because it's really getting our houses in order, right? What I'm urging with stacking metals is becoming your own bank. Divest from the banking system, right? People don't even know that, like, we used to navigate in a system or economic system that we never used to involve banks in our college loans, in our houses, in our home. We never used to involve them. So yeah, like you know, in my eyes, it's as simple as going back to that system. You know, it's gonna rein a lot of things in, because people ask me, well, how do I buy a house if I want to use metal? And the real truth, right, is like, if we can't necessarily afford to pay it in full, we can't necessarily afford it. You know, that is the way of commodities. There is no stretching. That's what the banks did. They're like, oh, they allow people to stretch their dollar. I'll put a little bit down and I'll pay it off long term.
Yeah.
And that's how we've also gotten away from tethered to reality. You know, people are living head in the clouds, high on the hog. And if you're exactly right, if people are not, you know, willing to get disciplined enough to rein it in, you know, kind of live a little bit of beans and rice and beans.
Yeah.
I think there's a ruder awakening coming for a lot of people. You know, if we can't admit that maybe there's a little bit too much house, maybe there's a little bit too much car, you know, you're going to see a lot of 40-year-olds have to move back in with their parents in their basements, because that's the way it works. You know, that's the way the math works. So I urge people, it's time to focus. There's no more time for ADD out there in the world. It's truly time to focus our financial energy and take command of it, right? Become our own banks. That's really what my
and it's like, are you able, to all of you watching, are you guys able to pause on the lifestyle you live now? Because I guarantee you 99% of people, if they did a budget, they reflected on finances, had these open combos, really changed their spending habits, shop frugal, live below their means, you would be in a different position financially. Yes, now, and more so, are you going to be off better later? That's the hard part, because we want so much of it right now, right? We want the dopamine. We want to go buy the car, so we drive it, and then in a week, and then we want to go wear a watch. We look at it, in 2 days, we're like, okay, the dopamine's gone. I want to go buy a house. I want to go buy a new pair of clothes or a new pair of shoes, or I'm going to go upgrade, or I'm going to shop for VIP. I'm going to be first class. And cool, yes, that will wear off instantly. This stuff, you accumulate this, you'll probably buy a jet in the future. You'll probably have your own clothing line. You probably will literally have your own seminar. It's just, can you flip the present? That's why it's called an investment, because you invest, it goes inward. And if you have patience, if you look at the word magic, the word pay is in patience. It will pay off. It's just, can you literally look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to live below means. I'm going to budget. I'm going to cut back on spending. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to educate. I'm going to, like Bianca said, I'm going to focus. I'm going to blot out all the distractions, not for life. I choose to refrain from saying sacrifice. That's a very aggressive word. You don't have to sacrifice anything. Put a lot of your things on pause and communicate that. Hey, not right now. Maybe in a few months, I can go travel with you. And in these few months, work your butt off, accumulate your wealth, stack your metals, diversify in other things. We didn't get to XRP and all that stuff. That's fine. There's other things you can put your money. It's just, are you willing to do it now? That's uncomfortable for a life for you, your kids, their kids, their kids. That's better. And if you can't choose that, that's something that's on you. No money's going to fix that. No, I don't care how much this is worth. If you can't actually comprehend that as a human, that you're willing to pause something now and not get hooked on the dopamine, the ego, the comparison, the impression, look at me, or look how great this life is, and put your head down, act in silence, work in silence, help others, empower people. And the years that come, each year will get easier and better and better and better. And the people that do the opposite now and spend it all, splurge it all, expense it all, don't get anything back, the years that go, what's it going to be for them? I pray it's not. And I'm also, reality is real. It could be challenging, catching up, caught up, behind, struggling, and you keep repeating those cycles over and over and over. So I just wanted to throw those 2 cents in there. And I know a lot of people were asking, where do we buy metals? You guys were looking at. Where do we go? What do we do? How do we get, what should we do next? Give them some calls to actions. And then we got like 5 questions here that people are asking that we can answer.
Yeah, I'd love to. So yeah, if you are looking to buy metals, I'm a private, precious metals dealer authorized, based in California. Yeah, I can service anyone in the country, North America specifically. So yeah, international is a bit more difficult, but if you want, just follow me on Instagram, reach out.
Right down there, it's right there. So you want them to DM you? Is that the easiest? Or
DM me, set up an appointment, however you guys really feel the most called to act. There it is. But yeah, the best way to hold me is Instagram, on my website, and just
what's your website? Slow down. What's your website so people can write this down? I'm going to type that again. It's
www.𝗪𝗜𝗟𝗔𝗕𝗥.com, and yeah, all the information there.
Your Instagram is spelled, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That right there. So that's handle numismatics and www.𝗪𝗜𝗟𝗔𝗕𝗥.com, and you'll have ways you can contact her. You can get on a call with her. If you want to start investing, it doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of dollars. Like you can start small. Get in the habit. Get in the habit of little things. I know the night out to dinner is nice. Go buy the restaurant in a couple months or a couple of years instead of going out to dinner.
How much nicer is gifting freedom to people?
There you go. There you go. So hit her up.
Yeah, in the way, a tangent is like even in our relationship, everyone knows for me, like they're only going to get gifted medals, not from everyone, right?
The best.
That's it, It's
literally
like,
Santa. She's a silver Santa. That's what she is to me.
Yes, but it's just like, what else would I, like it becomes a no-brainer after a certain point. So if you have to start with 1 ounce, that 1 ounce could save your life in the future. You really never know how this is going. So yeah, rather be 6 months early than a day late.
Beautiful. So Miss Numismatics, MissNumismatics.com. Hit her up. She'll take care of you. Let's go to some questions.
Go for it.
Let's see. Where should we buy? Okay, there you go. So hit her up. I think that's probably a lot of the questions are, where should we buy? Remember, she's here in the U.S. International is a different ball game. You could still talk to her, still pick her brain, and so forth. So that's that one. Let's see, what else do we got? What concise sources can you recommend to learn more about this? So yeah, what are some favorite resources? So we talked about Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money, 1 through 10 on YouTube, and then obviously her page, her website, and her Instagram.
Definitely. There's plenty of
I would honestly say don't go any farther until you actually go through all of that. Then you can ask her.
Yes.
What else though? Anything else outside of that? That's one of your favorite resources?
Absolutely. So I have a couple of, what I call my financial gurus. One of them is Dave Ramsey. So if you guys don't know who that is, definitely check his page out. He does essentially a call center where people around the country call into him and they explain, their financial situation. And it's he's a great resource. He's been doing this in the finance world for 40, 50 years. So he's just solid guy, incredible information, and what I really love about him and why I wanted to highlight him especially was his mentality. Of course he brings, it's a lot of people's problem isn't a math problem, it's a behavior problem. So he really addresses that, brings things to right relation, first and foremost of God, also helping others as part of his game plan. So there's a lot there. He has his financial, his baby steps to financial peace. So he's an incredible resource. And another one I want to highlight is Peter Schiff, right? He's a huge, original gold bug. If you wanted to, get curious about the ins and outs of the metals world and in comparison to all the other markets, he's an incredible resource. And the last thing I'll plug is my Discord, right? So I have a server that's specifically dedicated to every resource, every speaker, article, everything that's ever concerned precious metals or the financial markets that I've come across and, my team has come across. It's all there curated for you guys. So really that's a no-brainer. That's what I'd really plug, because it's I've built the Library of Alexandria in there for you guys. And it's a one-stop shop. So get in there, while we still have the luxury of it, of collaborating, because, I talk about so much more than even just finance. There's the channel dedicated to preparation. So
yes. Beautiful. There you guys go. We already answered this one. What should it be priced at? You guys know that, from 4 to 5. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
I'd love to really quickly address this, right? Because
sure.
I could be even so far wrong, I had a dream a long time ago. I was like, I will buy my house in 4 to 5 ounces of gold, right? And then it was relayed to me. I'm like, this has happened before. We've already literally seen this movie. So in Weimar Germany, hyperinflation, right? So this is the 1920s to 30s, right in line with America's Great Depression. They hyperinflated, and it was so bad in Germany, right? That people were able to buy city blocks for 2 to 3 ounces of gold. I'm over here asking for one house with maybe a little bit of acreage. People were able to buy city blocks with 2 to 3 ounces of gold. So if you don't think that an asset can buy an asset, that's a prime example. People don't even know that an ounce of silver in America used to equate to an acre of land. So if people are thinking that silver and gold are $30 and $2,000, it's all relative. It's all relative to, to what it's really priced against, what it's tethered to. And my wish is that we go back to the true price, the metal price, the iron price. And
beautiful. Awesome. Good. Another question, this is actually a good one too, is what's the best way to sell your silver in case you need to use some of your stack for maybe an emergency, or you need cash because we're not there yet? Do they go back to you? Right? What are they?
So of course you can, any authorized dealer, not necessarily on Instagram, but people who are actually established with a vault, they will usually just as easy, right? You can come right back to me, cash out. It is as liquid, it is as liquid as cash. There is a bit of a timing, aspect. Of course, if you're in an emergency, let's say one day you bought the ounce at $38, tomorrow they'll only buy it back to for 28. So you might eat some money just because of where the premiums are today, but it is still optionality. You still have the option to liquid, go back to fiat land if you really need to, right? If the person you're trading with will not recognize the metal, I understand, but in my eyes, just wait. Right? Cash will soon. The jig will be up. The jig is up, but people's perception.
Jig is up, time is catching up. Jig is up, time's catching up.
Exactly.
Another question, do you have any fees? It's a good question, fees for consulting.
No, not yet. Right?
Take advantage of it now, guys. She's going to be $10,000 an hour.
I joke, I'm guys, I know what my price really is. I know what my rate really is. It's actually $10,000 to sit with me for an hour, but it's that's
what I would say. It should.
But I do it for free. I do it for free because it's so much more about like saving as many people as I can. I do it so I can sleep well at night, right? When the whaling begins. I want to have helped as many people as I can. So no fees, no minimums.
Amazing.
You can buy one coin,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love it. Let's see. Why are American Eagle premiums so high?
Great question. So, I mean, it's all relative to the market, right? American Eagles, they're just the most desirable. American coinage in general, most desirable, most reputable, most recognizable in the world. Exactly. So, I mean, this is where the coin world gets really intricate, right? Because we're only talking about American coinage. There's world coinage, right? So this is, people really underestimate how much money is moving in this industry. It's billions of dollars, and it's so much wealth stored in such little volume. One of my friends like just took a picture of his, a little part of his stack casually. He's like, people have no idea they're looking at $100,000 worth of value. So, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, let's get back to the pricing, the premiums, right? They're just astronomical right now in this moment, I think, because people are paying attention to current events. So, one of my mentors even said that this might be the last series, like this might be the last few years of the minting of who knows what's going on with the mints, right? And what do you think that might do for the numismatic value of 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 coins? We've already seen them go astronomical. So yeah, we don't know necessarily exactly. It could be mint supply chain issues. It could be just, the market in America going crazy, right? The silver squeeze catching on through a bunch of factors. But yeah, I mean, I don't focus on spot price too much. I know people, they're like, I want to get silver as cheap as possible. But there is a little bit of a method to, my madness. There's a reason why I stack the way I do, and I don't necessarily pay attention to spot price. In my eyes, if I'm getting silver for under 50, $100 an ounce, I'm still stealing it. So yeah, it's all relative. Don't expect everyone to be exactly like my mentality and how we stack, but
Beautiful.
Yeah, know what you hold, right? Know what you hold. That's the most important.
Good stuff. All right, y'all. Anything else? That's it on the question box. If I missed something, you got about 10 seconds to tap it in the question box. If not, we're going to wrap it. So again, Miss Numismatics, at Miss Numismatics, MissNumismatics.com. Her name is Bianca. Reach out to her.
They're ringing in their ears today. They're like, Miss
Good.
Numismatics, Miss Numismatics.
Good. Okay, I'm going to say it again. At Miss Numismatics, MissNumismatics.com. That's the thing, guys. We pray and hope that you came out wealthier mentally in this last hour. I will post this on my page so you guys can go back and watch it again. And like a last thing I'll say is just get focused, start a budget, keep learning, tap into those resources, watch that Hidden Secrets of Money, pick her brain. And like she said, even if it's one to start, it's one more than what? Millions and millions and millions of people.
1 ounce is better than no ounce.
1 ounce is better than no ounce. One push-up is better than no push-up.
Right.
And that's where we're going to go from there. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And, yeah, guys, hit her up. She's a wealth of knowledge.
Be your own bank.
Be your own bank.
That's what I'm going to close with. Thank you so much, Chris, for having me on, and I'll talk to you very soon. I know that.
This is yet to come. We'll see you guys. God bless. Take care.